to I welcome you all to today's session on Elevate Your Efficiency, Time and Task Mastery for Leaders. Slide. Thank you. This is today's agenda, and we'll be saving questions for the last 10 to 15 minutes of the session. Our amazing alumni ambassadors. Trenda Dumas, Allison O'Donnell, Blake Parrish, and Amaya Robertson.
Actually, just make sure, can everybody hear us? We'll get a thumbs up before we get started into this initial slide. All right. Thumbs up. Yep, we'll take all the emojis. You guys can hear us. It goes in and out. Okay.
Yeah, Annabelle, do you want us to introduce ourselves first?
Yes, please. Let's go back to that one slide. Yep, for alumni ambassadors. And yeah.
I can go ahead and go first since I'm already
Allison.
off mute. Yeah. I'm Allison O'Donnell. I did the Georgia State grad program. I finished in 2023. I did the marketing program, so I got my master's in marketing. The 1-year program, really loved it at Georgia State. Love working with Georgia State and coming back and being able to talk to you guys. So I'm super excited to share our presentation with you guys today. I currently work at Home Depot. I am an analyst on the Brain Advocate team. I've been here for about a year and a half, so excited to share some of my knowledge, getting into the kind of the work field with everything, and kind of how I have learned to manage my time and stay efficient at work in a big corporate setting like the one I'm in.
Okay, Allison, I'll go next. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Latrenda Dumas. I want to first introduce Blake. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it today, but Blake, he's actually in my cohort. So we both graduated, excuse me, May 2020 with our Master's in Health Administration. So he's currently a clubhouse manager, and actually my title has changed. I recently just received a new job opportunity, so I still work in revenue cycle, but I'm on a team that's called Operation Effectiveness, strictly for the PD side of the house. So looking forward to our amazing presentation today.
Yeah, I can go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Amaya Robertson. I'm actually a recent grad from Georgia State's MBA program, so 2025, a couple weeks ago, and I concentrated in human resource management. So currently, I actually work at Dolby Labs, and I am in HR, particularly within a project association role. So I just converted from an internship to a full-time opportunity. So super excited to be here with you guys. All right, next slide. Latrenda, passing it off to you.
Yes, thank you so much. So this slide incorporates development levels of efficiency. And so we're breaking down the different levels as far as entry level, mid management, and executive leadership. So this framework highlights how management skills evolve as you move through different stages of leadership, from managing yourself to managing multiple projects to managing people and strategy. So at our entry level, the primary focus is on building strong personal and organizational relationships, meeting deadlines, and balancing work and personal life. As you progress to mid management, the scope expands to balancing daily operations, people, and long-term projects. Delegation and accountability can be crucial. So I myself currently am in the mid management range, and I hope to one day soon progress into the executive level, which that the shift incorporates more of strategy, planning others' time, and holding teams accountable. Leaders here focus on vision, prioritization, culture, rather than just individual tasks. So key takeaways is that leadership is progressive. Each stage builds on the previous one, requiring new skills, new priorities, and broader impact in the organization. So it's very efficient that you kind of just go through all these different stages. because you're able to advance and understand each stage. So I kind of want to give a couple examples. When we focus on organization and time, at an entry level, we're staying organized with assigned tasks and meeting deadlines. When we move to mid level, we're balancing operations, projects, and people. And then when we get to our executive, we're planning other time, setting organizational goals. Prioritization. At entry level, priorities are given to you. Mid level, independent prioritization across multiple projects. And then your executive level, no one sets your priorities. You determine strategy. Stress and balance. You want to learn to manage stress and balance your personal life. At your mid level, you're managing workload while handling day to day firefighting. And your level, you are protecting time for reflection, self care, and innovation. When we get to decision making, at an entry level, you're following directions from others. Mid level, independent judgment within scope. You get to your executive level, you are making strategic decisions, including when to say no. And then lastly, for scope of impact, at an entry level, you are individual contributor. Mid level, department team level impact, and then executive level, organization wide strategy and culture. So it's very important to really just go and understand each level as you progress from a career ladder, and being able to work in the different frameworks and stages of each will better make you a more successful leader as it relates to time and management. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Latrenda. Some of the topics that she touched on a little bit in that slide go into why it's important to be organized and prioritize your work. That's going to be important throughout all three kind of levels of leadership. That's going to be important no matter what job level you're in, if you're entry level or if you're executive. It's really important to be organized and prioritize your work accordingly. It can help you increase your productivity. You can do some of that by creating to-do lists, making sure that you're planning out your week in advance, and on Mondays take some time to plan out your meetings and make sure that you're staying on task for the week. And it's also really important to be proactive and not reactive when you get into the working field. It's really important to make sure that especially depending on what role you hop into. My role specifically is very dependent on industry trends, and I work with a very seasonal account. So it's really important for me to be proactive in kind of what my account is going to be doing for the upcoming weeks, quarters, months, and make sure that we are preparing for that and we're not reacting to how, the environment or the economy, and making sure that we are staying ahead of the trend and the curve. And then also being organized and prioritizing your work can help you manage your stress levels. It can help you improve your decision making. And that's really important when knowing when to delegate tasks to others and knowing what is important to stay on your plate, what is important to kind of pass off, or it's not necessarily your responsibility to take care of. It also is really important to help you stay on track with deadlines, as LaTrenda mentioned. And then it also can help you build trustworthy reputation with your leaders and your managers and senior leadership, and just knowing that you're somebody who gets your work done on time and you are staying prioritized with what you have on your plate. And so I have a little matrix here that I've actually used a lot. I'm still in more of an entry level role. And so I've used this matrix a lot when I first started in the role that I have now to kind of help me adjust to everything that was kind of thrown at me when I started at Home Depot. And so you break out your tasks and your to-do lists into 4 different categories. What can you do? What can you defer or delay? What can you delegate to other people? And what can you drop? So that kind of helped me take a step back and look at the bigger picture of my to-do list and not get so overwhelmed with so many things that are on my to-do list, and help me kind of prioritize what is important for me to do right away, what is something that I can give to maybe my supplier that's not necessarily my responsibility to take care of, what can I drop off my to-do list completely, or what doesn't need to be done immediately and can kind of take a little bit of a back burner.
Thank you, Allison. for talking about organization and prioritization from that point. Leaning off of that, we're going to talk a little bit more about the technical things that can assist you as well. And that starts with knowing what systems work best for you. And so the best way to categorize this is there are three different types of systems that you need to have. So there are ones that are productive systems, what manages your productivity well, organizational systems, what keeps you organized so that way you can effectively use the tactics Allison gave you, and of course your support system. And so these systems, you have to have one of each, if not more, because they do not work by themselves. These all work hand in hand to make your life more efficient and make you more timely. So for organizational systems, think of this like the spine of your system. So your calendars, whether that's your Google Calendar or your Outlook calendar, to-do lists, things that set you up for success and outline everything that you have to do. Productivity systems, so these are like typical project management systems or techniques that help you to effectively manage your work. So I know a lot of you are familiar with Notion. Me in particular, I cannot do Notion, so I use something like Xtiles or other project management tools and tasks. And then also your support system. So this is stuff that helps to support you holistically as an individual, not just within your work. So that includes like your friends, your families, your hobbies, your professors. That's a big one to call out, especially for this program, and things of that nature. And so one big thing that I do want to stress as you're starting to identify what is like your system stack that you use is that you will be in different seasons of life, maybe different semesters, and maybe a system doesn't work anymore. Maybe that's something that you've grown out of. So it's important to routinely audit your systems to keep you successful. So you know what's working and what's not working. And so make sure that you're checking to see what parts of your systems are as effective, what isn't as effective, and make sure you reflect on why it's not effective. Because sometimes it may not be that you have to drop a whole system, but you may need to tweak it a little bit from how you first introduced it into your system stack. And make sure that you are identifying what are time savers in your life and what is time saving in your systems versus what is a time waster. What are things that are overworking you or things that are distracting you within your systems? So using that will be super helpful for helping you to become more efficient and timely.
Perfect. Thanks, Amaya. Kind of going off of that, I love to-do lists. I love to be organized and use calendars and block out time. That helps me really stay on track. I'm the type of person, I'm very type A, I like to minute by minute track my day. So it's really, really important for me to carve out time blocks for what's important at work and also in your personal life as well. But specifically at work, making time for your career development and blocking out personal breaks has been really important for me. That includes mental breaks or just making sure that you're carving out your lunch block so that you have time to walk away and kind of decompress in the middle of your day. That way you come back in the afternoon refreshed. Taking time to complete things that might have been pushed to the back burner. I like to carve out time blocks just as focus time for me to kind of work on things without any interruption that might have been pushed to the back burner. Also, for my role specifically, it's really important that I keep up with the competitive landscape and industry trends. And so I will carve out time monthly typically to go through and shop competitor sites, look at other retailers, read the news, go on and figure out where the industry is turning so that we can stay on track with my account and everything I have to do at work. And then also prioritizing your personal development and networking. That's been really, really important to kind of help with my growth in my career. And I like to lay out a time frame of every usually quarter where I will block out some time every quarter to go through and set up coffee chats with people that I have previously talked to throughout the quarter or previously talked to, even just in passing. Or I also like to set up time blocks or coffee chats to connect with new people and new network connections that I have found or been referred to talk to in order to advance my career. And then also attending development events that could be inside the office or outside of the office. I know Home Depot specifically has a lot of those development chats, so they're constantly on my calendar, and I try to have some of those development events to go to and really grow my knowledge and look at next steps of where I want to grow into my next role. Boom, you can go to the next slide. And this is kind of a look at my calendar that I actually have a couple days at Home Depot that I typically stay pretty busy with meetings, but on here, on these 3 days, you can see that I have on Monday, the first Monday of every month, I like to spend an hour comp shopping, competitive shopping, and going walking different sites, walking different retailers, walking our own site, and making sure that I'm staying in touch with where the industry growing is and what we are promoting on our website as well. Like I said, I also think it's really important to have your daily lunch break blocked off. And so I have it as busy during that time. Nobody can go in and book any meetings during my lunch break. And that is really important for me to take my time and make sure that no one is interrupting that time. And yes, I do have this set as pink. I find it, I kind of appreciate having color. I know a lot of my coworkers color code their calendars. I think it draws my attention more, and it makes me pay attention more to my calendar when I have it in different colors. I usually change it throughout the season. But yes, I also have some coffee chats and development chats on here. I set those up every single quarter so that throughout the quarter I have those sprinkled in where I have time, and I make sure that I am setting up time for those every single quarter. And then weekly, like I said, there's different workshops that Home Depot has, and also through Georgia State and through even just there's marketing groups in Atlanta. I try to make sure that I'm setting up development workshops. I'm trying to go to these kinds of events that will help me grow my personal and professional career.
Yeah, thank you, Allison. Love to know that other people change their calendar seasonally. I'll change it off of like different like Studio Ghibli palettes for me, depending on the season. So that's pretty cool. Going off of what Allison just talked about, actually, and how she just masterfully showed us her mix on her calendar, I wanted to talk a little bit more about planning your growth and what some strategic pauses look like and how that contributes to your growth. So, first, when thinking about growth planning, you have to be very realistic about your goal setting. And I know we all probably think that we are, like when we write down that one line of something I want to achieve, that is like the best goal setting can get. Actually, you can go deeper and things feel much more achievable. So, I want to challenge you all to create realistic short term and long term goals for what you want to achieve in the future. And once you list them, answer one question and create some actions around it. The main question that you should always answer is, why is this goal important? What does it help you to achieve? And when you answer that, it's easier to create actions that help encourage you to actually complete it. And so you want to create a feasible action plan to help you get there and actually break down the goal into incremental steps that are attainable and, most importantly, accessible and feel achievable for you to do. Take small bites of an elephant, and you can get the entire elephant done. And finally, I also want to talk about defending your downtime. So, something that Allison said earlier was how she protects her lunchtime. She doesn't want meetings during lunch. I don't like meetings during lunch either. And that is important because you have to give your brain a break. So, and even not just during lunchtime, if you can find wedges within your day of 10 minutes, 5 minutes before scheduling back to back meetings to actually take in some time to reflect on what you talked about in your previous meeting, collect your thoughts for the next meeting, or even look at the notes that you took down, it's important to have that unstructured time in your day to help you rest and reset. Having that unstructured space actually helps to increase your creativity and your productivity. So give yourself that time. Even if it's a couple seconds to a minute, make sure you're inserting wedges into your life to help you reset and get ready for the next thing. And I also want to talk about really understanding your capacity. What are you at capacity at? And communicating that to people is extremely important in defending your time in general, but especially your downtime. If you're taking time to yourself because you need a minute because you're over your capacity, take that time. Set those boundaries with your coworkers and also utilize the power of no or not yet. To Allison's point earlier, what she talked about within the time management of the 4Ds. What can you delegate? What can you delay? Take that time, and those strategic pauses can help you to be more efficient in planning your growth as well.
I do just want to hop in here too, real quick. I know that we are talking about how important it is to not have meetings during lunchtime, and this is a lunchtime meeting. It is still important to prioritize your lunch. I took an early lunch because I knew I had this meeting. So even though there are some times where you do have to use your typical traditional lunch break for a meeting, it is still important to have that time and block that out, either before or after, just to make sure that you're still giving yourself that time.
Yeah, totally agree. Latrenda, did you want to add?
Yes, I want to add that that is really great that you guys can block off time to actually have lunch because the way my schedule is set up, I just have to eat when I can. Um, because meetings on how my schedule's set, they're back to back to back to back. So I have to always like plan ahead. So that's really great that you guys can do that. I think I need to do a better job of mastering that, but it's so hard.
Yeah. That's real. I mean, I work on different time zones with a lot of different people in different countries. So sometimes my 12:30 is the only slot that they have because that's like their 8:30. So there are definitely those moments where it happens where you have to prioritize the meeting over maybe your typical lunch schedule, but create those boundaries, create like if you can be proactive and how LaTrenda was talking about in planning when you can have lunch based on what your schedule may look like for the upcoming weeks, make sure to prioritize that as well. All right, next slide. Okay, so we've talked about a lot right now, and I wanted to give some examples for how you can use some tools and resources that we've talked about within this presentation to actually utilize within your daily life. So some of these examples I use, and some of these examples I've seen other students or other teams use as well at organizations. So the main thing that I really want to stress is this top one of finding ways to automate where you can in your work and MBA. This does not mean use ChatGPT for your homework. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is make sure that you can make your life easier by delving a little bit deeper into your systems. Where can you use email rules to categorize certain emails that you get? What can you use for those email filters and any templates that you commonly send out for emails? Use that to automatically prioritize your inbox and your common emails when it's efficient. And then also within the MBA program, use some automated research or citation management tools that can be super useful for papers. That's a super good example. I'm sure some of us are familiar with that, especially anybody who's been on the STEM side before, but it's great for MBA programs as well. When it comes to team management, solidify a systems routine with your team. So create a shared system plan or multiple shared system plans amongst your team. Set up a meeting where you can decide what would be the primary shared space. Maybe that's like a SharePoint site. Maybe that's a Teams chat. Figure out what works best for you guys so you can store any notes, projects, or meetings that everyone should be aware of. So that way everybody can do their work efficiently. It's great for creating one source of truth so everybody knows where to find everything, and it leads to better people management and relationship building. And I can definitely attest to that as that is something that I've had to build through time with multiple teams of building good knowledge management systems and models. And then finally, one that's super cool that I actually use for myself is developing a learning flow space for myself. So this is something I did within my MBA program while I was also working, and I created a little workspace for myself where I could blend what I was learning from my coursework into my actual daily life and practicality within my day-to-day. And so for me, that looked like building out my skill portfolio. So looking at my syllabus, figuring out what skills I was learning from it, and then how would that build me up in my professional world, or even just spaces for articles, creating different agents that would help with picking out different HR articles so that way I could review them in the mornings. Also, things like that. I developed case studies based off of the case studies that I did actually within my MBA, and I would talk it over with my managers. And I would use that as an active learning opportunity to apply from theory to actual practice, and so on and so forth. So that was just a space where I got to really create my space, but also make more value for myself out of what I was getting in my homework and in my coursework. So make sure that whatever you're learning, make it meaningful to you. And this is a great way that you can do that within those systems and resources while you're being efficient.
Okay, so I kind of just want to tie everything together that we've discussed today. We've talked about so many things, but I kind of just want to bring it home with all the things that we have discussed today. So, leadership is more than managing tasks. It's about building trust, developing people, and setting a culture that inspires performance. That is so true. So, I've been in my role for about 90 days. And the first thing my leader told me was that I need you to get in here and manage the people. You will continue to understand how to understand the Piedmont way and in regards to how to actually perform the task that you're needing. But I was actually just thrown into the fire. And she told me, I need you to manage the people. You have some underperforming staff. I need you to get them up to speed. And I was past that within my first 90 days, on top of being short staffed and hiring new people. So just some of the challenges that you deal with outside of just, managing your tasks. So a couple of key takeaways is that you want to first master yourself, understanding that people will not follow a leader that's disorganized, inconsistent, and unreliable. Accountability starts at the top. Model the behavior that you expect for your team. So, for instance, with my team being that I am short staffed, so I'm having to take on some of their responsibilities and some of my managerial responsibilities. So the things that I'm asking my team to do, I'm also doing it as well. For example, I asked them to send recap emails. I gave them an example and they were stating, oh, this is just too much work. So I sent the email saying, hey, this is what I send out as a recap email for our site. I need you to do the same. We want to make sure that we are have self discipline and structure and the foundation for others to succeed. Also, in regards to mastering yourself, you want to make sure that you build your team and build your brand. I call them my executive advisors. I have a board of directors on my own, and that includes just mentors that I have, whether they are mentors that I may strive to become one day. I have people that are kind of my counterparts, and then I also have people that are a little bit under me so that I can provide mentorship for some of the things that I learned along the way. So make sure you have that board of directors. And then also, from time to time, reassess and say, okay, do I want to keep these people on or do I want to trade them out? The next thing, keep people in relationships. You want to identify your key stakeholders within your organization, whether that's your peers, your direct reports, and or decision makers. Again, that goes back to rabbit tail. Jessica, I hope you're okay. We want to make sure we identify our key stakeholders. We want to understand personalities, motivations, and working styles to connect more efficiently, especially when you are getting to that mid level and you're talking about managing people. Understanding that your different people have different motivations, they have different personalities, and they also have different working styles. So understanding that one shoe does not fit all, and being able to have change and adaptability. We want to build rapports that are not just personable likability, but through the deliverable high quality results. So being that if you state that you're going to do something, then make sure you follow up and do it. And for whatever reason, if you can't or unable, then make sure you providing that communication and then following up with, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get it done, but I can get it done by this time. Next is quality time is not just work. So leadership requires breaking down barriers. So get to know your team personally, not just professionally, as I stated. Culture is at the top, so make it one where people feel valued, included, and motivated. That is so important. When it comes to leadership and time management, you are as strongest as your weakest person on your team. So you're wanting to make sure if your people feel happy, they will perform and outperform for you. Effective delegation. So you want to match projects to the right people, challenging them while setting realistic timelines. Being a barrier remover, listen to what slows your team down and provide resources to help them succeed. Translate high strategy into actionable time bound goals. So you want to ask, do we need who do we need in place to achieve this, and be intentional about building that team. And that's kind of all that I have for you guys. Question?
Oh, Allison, a question in the chat.
I just saw that. Let me read this. Oh yeah, unexpected situations. That's the question, is how do I kind of navigate through things that might cut into my schedule, or things that are just kind of thrown on at the last minute. So that is where being proactive is really important, and managing your week at the top of the week and making sure that your calendar is up to date. That's something that is really important. If somebody wants to last minute throw some time on my calendar, they need to throw this last minute meeting on my calendar, I let them know, hey, my calendar's up to date. If you find free time on there, great. And so making sure that you are using those time blocks and making sure that you are putting that on your calendar as whenever you have something come up, making sure that your lunch breaks are always blocked off on your calendar, or make sure you're taking that time monthly, quarterly, weekly to block off time to get everything done that you need to get done, or get those development chats on your calendar so that whatever time you have available, it's not cutting into those activities. So that's where blocking off your time and staying up to date with your calendar is really important.
Beverly, you have your hand raised.
Yes. I want to say thank you guys so much for this opportunity to hear your opinions. And I have a question for anyone on the panel. My biggest challenge at work is delegating to stuff. And I feel like part of it is that I don't trust people to do what I do, which sucks. But how do you guys overcome that challenge of being like, hey, I know I've trained well enough to be like, I can actually let go, because I'm the type that I'll give them stuff to do. And then if I get any hint of pushback or any hint of, I don't think they got it, I'll just take it back and do it myself. But then that overwhelms my schedule and keeps me bogged down. So how did you guys overcome that challenge?
I think we all have a response to this one. I just wanted to real quick make the point of who are your stakeholders. So I have multiple stakeholders at work, and my vendor that I work with doesn't necessarily always do things in a timely manner. They don't do things the way that I would do things, but I have other stakeholders at work that I have to report to. So if I'm not getting done what I need to get done, and I have to constantly take on every little task because I don't trust my vendor to take care of it correctly, I'm not getting done what I have to get done. And then therefore my merchant and my other stakeholders or my managers aren't happy with me. So it's important to prioritize. In my opinion, I think, how do you get done what you have on your plate? And, sure, maybe you need to check in, or maybe you need to go talk to, whoever you're delegating the task to, and make sure that you're step by step checking in, or every week or every 2 weeks you're checking in to make sure that they are staying on track. But doing those little check-ins rather than doing the entire task yourself still takes it off your plate so you can get done what you have to get done.
Yeah. If I can add to that, actually, for me, especially like even as an intern and even now going into a full-time role, I've still had the opportunity to collaborate and sometimes manage up for people that were above me, and still having them report to me for a project because of just the department I was on. It all came down to effective SOPs for me. So I know that a lot of standard operating procedures are not the best when it comes to some certain companies, especially for people management. And especially for me in HR, I knew that I was building procedures that had not been put in place yet. So everybody had to get with the program. And they were looking at me to do it, the least tenured, you could say, for that responsibility. And so it really came down for me of one, making sure I'm getting accurate feedback from people, of straight up asking them from the jump, let's have a conversation. Why is this not working? What do you feel like is not working? Keeping neutral statements, of course, so it doesn't feel accusatory, because I'm similar to you where I can feel sometimes like I want to be in the weeds and everything, but also how do I grow? But also from there, when you have effective standard operating procedures that can uh, really accommodate to everyone's learning style. So you have a visual video for some people, you have it also written down. That also effectively enables you to ask, hey, like what part are you struggling with? Versus having to go through the entire process and starting to go from there, where you can build that trust with them, but they can also start learning how to manage up from that perspective. If they know they have common issues with this, you can see usually within operating procedures where there's a pattern of fault. And you can see from there what they need to work on objectively, and then also how that may help them in other areas as well. So then from there, you kind of start building that trust and rapport to where they start coming to you before the problems arise. If not, going to other people and managing their network to be useful within themselves and being resourceful with that. So that's been some of like the best feedback that's helped me when I'm growing, but then also that I've seen from others as well.
Yes, I would like to also add to that. I thought that that was a really great question. And I know just from my experience as I have just continued to climb the ladder and have really gotten into people management, the higher you go, the more it's about it is about delegation because you will become overwhelmed. And again, your team, you are only as strong as your team. And so you start now, you have to kind of train your brain to be more in a space of coaching and mentoring. So understanding, what level that team member is on. And if you are giving them that task because we're all hired to do our job. So obviously, if this person is hired, then they have some type of technical skill. So it's just a matter of understanding that person, understanding where they are, and then hypothetically, if will feel more comfortable, say, hey, I'm going to give you this task. Giving them a reason. Sometimes you can, if possible, give them a reason as to why you're giving them this task, and then maybe just schedule, check-ins just to monitor the work until you start feeling comfortable with that person and being able to produce.
I know we had, I don't want to say your name wrong, Nyla? Is
Yes.
that right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. What's your question?
Yeah, so I briefly put it in the chat, but I wanted to expand a little bit on that. So I am working full time while also in the dual marketing and data analytics program. So of course, kind of working full time and being in school full time is really hard to navigate. And then also staying involved within my company that I'm working at, and then also in school.
Mhm.
So my question is, how do you know when to say no? Because I find myself, saying yes to everything because, of course, I want to make sure that I'm keeping a good rapport with my people at work, and then also keeping a good rapport with my people in school and in class, and understanding that, priorities are going to be the priorities, but you also need to network and put yourself out there. So I guess my question is, how do you guys navigate saying no and also feeling good about it later?
Yeah, great question. I just had to say no the other day in a nice way. So yeah, I'm happy to take this. I also worked throughout my entire MBA program. I had a full-time internship that was really a full-time job, as well as working. I also had a podcast. I still have a podcast. I was the president of an organization. So I had a couple of different things on my plate. So it was constantly full all the time. And I was always looking for ways to figure out how to mitigate that. For me, it came down to something I mentioned earlier of sometimes it doesn't have to be a no. See what you can make a not yet. See what you can delegate or delay to a later point in time if it's possible. And then also down to like the prioritization piece. For me, I even for like my New Year's resolutions or goals for the year, I guess, I schedule it quarterly. So every quarter I focus on something different so I don't overwhelm myself. One quarter may be about health and wellness. One quarter may be about networking and connection. You really have to look at how are you spending your time. And one of the best ways that I did was I did a pie chart, and then I actually wrote like how much of each activity takes up my day, takes up my time, and seeing where I can shift, and also being honest with myself of like, hey, instead of getting on TikTok for like 30 minutes, why don't we use that time to actually schedule some LinkedIn cold emails to go out? You know what I mean? So I really think if you take some time to just build like what is important to you for the day, or maybe for a week or for a month, and keeping like a key theme, you won't have to overwhelm yourself as much. If you network one week and prioritize that for what it is, that is a lot easier than thinking about like day to day. Oh, I need to connect with this person. Oh, I need to do XYZ. Same thing with saying like what networking events are within a week or within a certain month, whether that's in the MBA program or with your company, seeing if you can just gauge that month. I've done a lot of networking. Now I can move on to the next thing. So it's more so about thinking about what in your mind is satisfying to you. Those times that you have to say no, again, think about like where you can delay it or saying, hey, I don't have capacity for this, but I would love to be thought of at a later time. And then for that other part of you just have to think about like what is your metric for success in those areas, so that can help you build out what you really need to say no to in that way.
I also want to hop in here. I think on top of that, I think I might have some really great points. Something that I've had to learn to do in order to say no at work, especially if it's something that, in my entry level role, maybe I don't have the capacity to do, or I'm not exactly sure where to go, or how to pull, a certain data piece. Being able to offer a different solution has been really helpful, especially when talking to my leaders and saying, hey, I might not have time for this, or I might not have the capability to do this. I might not have the access level to do this, but let me loop in somebody else. Let me see if I can find the right direction for you. I think has been really helpful. Just maybe, making sure that you are not leaving that person without a solution, period. And making sure that if you don't have the time or the capability to do it, you're pointing them in the right direction of where to go for it.
Thank you, kitties.
Of course. I see another question. How do you stay disciplined in sticking to your plans and managing your time effectively? Um, mm, this one can be answered so many different ways, but I think for me personally, and I'm happy to also open it up to you guys as well, Allison and Latrenda. For me, I have to really sit down and be honest with myself when I have a big goal, and I have to ask myself, how much do I really want it? And that means like, what am I willing to put aside for it? And not in like a dangerous way, but more so in like a, okay, if I have to take some time on the weekend to get this done, am I gonna do it? And like I said earlier, breaking down that big goal to make it actionable in incremental steps. What can I realistically achieve that contributes to this goal in 3 months? Like that's one thing I did right now of I'm working on getting certified as a certified professional for HR. That test is hard and it's not something that's super easy. So I had to start thinking and breaking down, how much money am I going to need for this? How much am I willing to spend on study materials for this? How much time am I going to spend reaching out to people on LinkedIn or in HR circles to help me figure out like what's the best advice for how I should study for this? While also maintaining a full-time job. And then if I was doing my MBA from, late into the night like it usually goes, also thinking about how much time on the weekends am I going to continue to put towards this. And so I think that's a big piece of it, again, from a mindset perspective in staying disciplined for it. But also, you need to have people who are going to hold you accountable. So, similar to what Latrenda was talking about earlier of having like her mentors and her board of directors, I have my Avengers, and they're comprised of a SMART acronym. So, I have the S is for sponsors, M is for mentors, A is for advisors, R is for role models, and the important one is the T is for truth tellers. Who are the people who are really going to keep me accountable and say, hey, like, I know you've been kind of slacking on this because you had this pickup, but if you really want to achieve your goal, you need to start picking back up on it or you're not going to get there. And being realistically honest with me about things. So you have to have people who will hold you accountable in that aspect as well, or other techniques like the Pomodoro technique, where you take some time, take a break, and figure out what works best for your brain in keeping you just on track for that stuff.
I think also, I know I've said this like 4 or 5 times, 4 or 5 times now, but time blocks do really help me stay on track. So if there is a goal, if you, take what Amaya said, you do, assess what is really important to you, what do you want to put other things aside for, and what is a goal that's really, you really want to hit. Making sure that you are taking time to block out even small chunks of time to work towards that goal on your calendar. Sometimes, especially at work, if I have a lot on my to-do list or I get kind of overwhelmed with tasks, I can kind of be a little ADHD and I can just get focused on one thing and just forget about everything else I have to do. So if I have something that pops up on my calendar or I get a notification, hey, you have this time block coming up, for, to do coffee chats or to do a development course, that helps me kind of stay on track of and be disciplined to work towards a goal. And even if I'm caught up in tasks, I still have that reminder coming up of, hey, you blocked off a certain amount of time to focus towards this goal, and that is kind of how I stay disciplined. And I think in my issue, Robin was talking about the SMART acronym that you talked about. Yeah.
For me, as it relates to work and staying disciplined and managing my time effectively, for me, my time is very demanding as far as like just meetings, like I stated, the back-to-back meetings. So what I'll do is So what I do have some consistent things that I do throughout my day. So I make sure I work out every day. I make sure that I'm, constantly staying hydrated. Um, and then, of course, on weekends, I'm making sure that I'm having some self care and making sure I'm spending time with my family. So, I too, when I was in my master's program, I worked full time. In that time frame, I was managing people. I was a parent, so I had a family. So, kudos to the people that are doing all those things. You can do it. But what I do is I kind of look ahead at my schedule. So, within my day, as it relates to meetings, there are some meetings that I'm not. So, I work completely remote, and most of our meetings are we don't have our cameras on. So I look at my calendar to see if there are times throughout my calendar where I maybe have a meeting, but it's just a listening meeting. So I'm gonna multitask and I'm gonna do something, and that's how I kind of plan my day based on the type of meeting that it is. So if it's a listening meeting, I am listening, but I'm also multitasking doing something else. Now, if there's a meeting that I have to speak on, then I've already prior prepared for that meeting, and I've already pretty much I already have the emails, the recap, everything I'm gonna send out. So once I get done with that meeting, instantly it's already sent out. So it's just a matter for me is pre-prep and then multitasking when there are meetings that I'm not speaking on.
I wanted to call out Krista's question in the chat. It says, was there ever a time where you felt overwhelmed with work, school, or personal life where you had to have everything done and you were struggling gauging how long tasks were going to take you, and how did you overcome this specifically for time blocking? If you are kind of struggling with gauging how long a task is going to take you, I like to lay it out in simple terms and kind of outline it for myself. So if you have some big, end of semester project that's been looming over you and you're not sure how long it's going to take, kind of outlining, I need to, first do the research for this, then I need to do a first draft, then a second draft, or I need to, um, if I have quarterly presentations that I do at work, and I know that I need to start with my outline, I know I need to get my slide deck skeleton put together, then I need to do my research, then I need to put my research in a slide, then I need to, pull my other data for this slide, and then I need to, kind of do my first run through. I need to review it with my manager. I have kind of an outline of how the project should go, or how to, or the main steps to accomplish this project. And then, start out small and give myself small goals. So I'll give myself, okay, this week I'm just going to focus on outlining my deck and getting some data pulled. The next week I'll focus on, beefing up my slides a little bit more, making sure I have my talking points. And then the next week I'll be reviewing it with my manager or my senior manager. So giving yourself small, attainable chunks to take at one time. I think Amaya said, if you take small bites of an elephant, it doesn't feel like a whole elephant. And I think that's really important, in just breaking it down into smaller, more manageable pieces, and really just giving yourself an outline first and giving yourself a lot of time to kind of work through it.
Yeah. If I can add on to what Allison said, actually, something that worked for me was I would write down every single thing I had to do on a piece of paper. And it would look so overwhelming at first, but then from there, I would take, like, take one big thing, write it out, like Allison said, and just write it down of structures. What are the steps that I need to take to get this accomplished? And then from there, and just kind of knowing myself, but also thinking about, like, if this is something entirely new to me, I'll literally set time on my calendar for each little step to make it easier for myself. So writing it out and breaking down how I need to do a PowerPoint, the steps, and then schedule time for each of those actions. And I'll schedule a little bit more than what I think I might need, wherever I have that space. And then I just kind of keep myself working through that so I don't, like, measure myself to anything, if that makes sense. So if I end up completing a step in maybe half of the time that I set, okay, I'm going to go ahead and start on the next one, kind of keep operating in flow state. But once the time is done for that task, I'm not touching it anymore until it's time for the next block of time that I've already set up to start working on it. And so measuring myself that way, and then it gets to a point where maybe I'm done with it, and then I still have some time set aside, I can cancel that time. But it's really in reassuring yourself that you have enough time that really allows you to get things done efficiently and effectively, but also, like, with the most creativity possible. So I suggest that always as an option, as well. for using that stuff. When you have to get everything done, breaking it down, but setting that time aside with more wiggle room than you think, to also help kind of ease you so you can confidently work through it. All right. Yes, that's what it's called, a brain dump. Yeah, I write everything down. They actually teach you that in one of the classes here, my project management class. I really enjoyed it, of just writing down or taking down everyone's accounts of everything for brainstorming. So that way you can really sift through what you need, what could be helpful for later, and then what you don't. So I look at brainstorming completely different now. Lauren?
Yes, this has been great. But one thing I am curious about is in the event, the rare case that you all get off, with these schedules, how do you get back in motion? I'm a single mother going through the program, and I do have like some gigs that I do on the side. And for me, I have a very small margin for error. Like everything is, the time is allocated for it. So I'm just curious as to when, I don't know, say it's an emergency or just something comes up, or maybe you're not feeling well. And so one thing gets knocked off. How do you get back on track?
Mhm.
I think this is where being proactive can really help you. So, say you're going through your program and you have, that you have a big end of year project coming up or end of semester project, making sure that you are staying on top of that. And you're not putting it off to the last minute and you're not reacting to, okay, I just only have a week or two to get this finished. That allows yourself the flexibility of if something comes up or if you have to take some time off, if you are laying out time blocks, if you're being proactive and you're setting up time to do these things ahead of time and make sure that you're not waiting till the very last minute or you're not waiting till something comes up. Like for me, for example, I'm not waiting until I see an industry change in my category. I'm every single month I'm going and I'm shopping competitor sites. I'm looking at the industry, how it's kind of leaning. I'm every week I'm going through different news articles that relate to my category and making sure that I'm kind of staying on top of things so that if something does come up or I need to take time off, I'm not able to be here, I'm not reacting um, to that time lost. I've been staying on top of things. I've been laying out my schedule or laying out a project. I'm not starting from scratch when I come back, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I want to add, that definitely makes sense, Allison, but I want to add there are, instances where life just happens and you've done all you can do, you have stay prepared, so you don't have to be prepared when things happen, but sometimes life throws us curveballs, and I have been a witness of curveballs. There are times sometimes when I have gotten off work and I have cried. I'm like, oh my God, this is just so overwhelming. And sometimes you just have to acknowledge it, like you do feel overwhelmed, making sure you're having those different resources, whether that's a mentor, whether that is even through, with my job. I have gone through our mental health program to get a counselor to kind of just a life coach, a career coach to kind of just help and coach me through these times when these things do occur. So just, making sure you're acknowledging that life has life, but you're not dwelling in it. Understand, okay, you got spilled milk, but we're not going to sit and waddle in it. We're going to, acknowledge you spilled some milk, but now we have to come up with a plan to get that milk up, with it and mop it up, and continue to move forward. So I just wanted to just add another perspective.
Yeah. And if I can bring it home with everybody's amazing points already. I do want to also say congrats, just being in the program and working and also being a single parent. I know that's probably not easy at all. So congrats to you on that. And pat yourself on the back for that every day. Whew. um, and just to kind of add to both of what they both were saying of just sometimes like for me, yes, the get ready so you don't like stay ready, so you have to get ready. I also think about like the wedge piece as well. Of just going back to that when something does happen, take that time to breathe, take like the 5 minutes, 10 minutes you need to really sit down and process like, okay, this just happened. what's in my control and then what's outside of my control. And what's inside your control can definitely be, hey, I know I have this stuff prepped. Let me go ahead and let my manager know this emergency just happened. I know we have this coming up. Here are the files or the processes that I have for what's coming up, so that way you're not left in the dark with nothing, just so you can see here's some stuff that we have for you to work off of or to add to. I really would like that support. Or if there's someone who needs these documents to help and assist with this, that would be great. So utilizing all of that of what's in your support, of what you can immediately kind of start to kind of semi-delegate out for that support part, the out of control stuff, let them know like, hey, I want to be able to do XYZ, whatever the case may be. Can you keep me up to speed with XYZ? So when you come in, you're already not necessarily like guns blazing, but you're already prepped and ready to be aligned, telling them to keep you in the loop, make sure to, keep me updated with emails and things like that. And you view it when you get to it, because it's out of control. You can't look at it right now because of what you got going on, but you look at it when you get to it. And remember, one of the main support, like the main systems that we talked about, was support. And so lean on that, from your manager to your team to who you may have in your personal circle as well. Girl, take yourself out and be like, guys, I got a vent. I got a yap. I'm so sorry. Don't apologize. But, really just utilize all of those things as well, of what's in your control. What's out of it is just what's out of it, and you'll deal with it when you get back. As long as you've kind of prepped yourself and letting them know, keep you in the loop, while also sending out as much as you can after you decompress yourself when it happens, you'll be good. I think we're at time. So, Annabelle or team, any closeouts?
I just want to thank everyone for joining today's session. I want to give a big thank you to all of the alumni ambassadors who gave all their tips and advice. I know I will definitely be using that in my daily life. And I hope all of you guys can use it as well. And wishing you guys all a wonderful day.